A lot of you have suggested me to make a video on Godlogic.
Helicopter, helicopter.
Godlogic is a Christian apologist and he got famous by harassing Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk, and then he started his own channel. Recently, I watched a video of his where he claimed that supposedly Islam says that Jesus is God. What? Yeah, he actually makes that claim. Let's see what he says and then I'll look at it.
Three persons could not be equally God if only one person with Trinity is God, like John chapter 5 verse 44. Jesus calls the Father explicitly the one and only God.
And you believe when you receive glory from one another, and do not seek glory that comes from the only God.
Okay.
Where does it say that the Father alone is God?
Here, if you read the context, it is so obvious that this is talking about the Father. Okay, let's read the verse.
Now I know you blind, man, but you gotta see this.
So John chapter 5, verse 42 to 44, it says, I know that you do not have the love of God in your hearts. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not accept me. But if someone else come in his own name, you will accept him. How can you believe, since you accept glory from one another, but do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? Right? Because the passage says, I have come in my Father's name. Now, what does that mean? It means that Jesus is saying that he has come on behalf of the Father, meaning on behalf of God, right? Obviously, if he is God himself, he would have never said that, right? He would have never said that I have come in my Father's name. No, he would have said, I have come in my own name. Context is the Father. The Father is the only God.
It says only God, not that the Father alone.
No. Read the context. Read the context.
I am. And just,
yeah, you could go one verse early. Yeah, right.
It's on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. It's on the screen. Now, I'm about to highlight it. How can you believe when you receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God, or the Father alone who is God? What does it say? Does it say the only?
Like he's like, let's read the passage, right? And then he only highlights the passage and completely ignores the previous passage, which literally talks about the Father.
No. Read this only passage that I highlighted. Don't look at anything else.
You know what? Let's take a look at his own screenshot, right? And he says that, does it say that the glory that comes from the only God, or does it say the glory that comes from the Father who is the only God, right? So basically his point is that the passage itself doesn't mention the Father, right? But the thing is that if you just look at the passage right before it, which is 43, it literally says, and it's in his own screenshot, I have come in my Father's name. It literally says that Jesus is coming in his Father's name. What does that mean? So when later on, when it refers to seeking glory that comes from the only God, it's referring to the Father. It's not referring to Jesus. Like, how dumb do you have to be to get refuted by your own evidence? And his fans are like coming on my comment section and whatnot and saying that, oh, we're debating. Dude, what's there to debate? He gets humbled by his own guest in his own show.
It says only God, not that the Father, only God.
Only God.
You don't believe Jesus is God?
I believe he is the prophet, and I follow him.
Why don't you believe he's God?
Because God can be a man.
Really?
Yeah.
Muhammad says that Allah is going to show up in a shape that matches what you imagine him to be. If you imagine Allah,
really?
If you imagine Allah to be a man, can't he come in the form of a man?
Listen, brother. Who created Jesus?
Nobody.
Nobody. Okay. He have the mother? Yes. Okay.
So are you going to answer my question now?
No.
Because I just answered Georgia. You skipped my question. So are you going to answer my question?
No, I don't skip it. You ask me, bro. I don't know what they ask me.
I asked you, since Muhammad teaches that Allah is going to come in a shape that's closest to the picture that you had in your mind about him, closest to your imagination. If you pictured him to be a man, could he come in the shape of a man?
Find me that, I will see it.
Find what? The Hadith?
Yeah, find someone.
It's Sahih Bukhari 4581.
So he's taking this hadith and saying that because it says that God will come in a form that is familiar to the Muslim, that means if he wants, he can come in a form of human being, right? And that means that what Christianity proposes can be true, right?
OMG, you are literally so cute.
Here, he's committing two logical fallacies. First, I don't think he understood what the guest meant by when he said that God cannot be a man. When Muslims say that God cannot be a man, it doesn't mean that he cannot appear as a man or like in like a dream or like on the day of resurrection. Like, that's not what this means. When we're saying God cannot be a man, it means God cannot take on the attributes of a man. God cannot have the sifat of a human being. Like, you cannot give the attributes of God and then give it to a human being, or take the attributes of human beings and then give it to God. They cannot share this kind of thing because God is nothing like his creation. This is one of the core beliefs of Islam. So here he's basically committing the logical fallacy. It's known as a strawman argument fallacy, where he's basically taking this argument of his opponent and misrepresenting it. The second fallacy he commits is the false equivalence fallacy. Jesus coming on earth as flesh or as human beings are not the same as God appearing as something familiar to people on the day of resurrection, right? See, the hadith is about the unseen. This has nothing to do with reality. So there's no equivalent of Jesus coming on earth and meeting up with his disciples as God versus this hadith that we have, which is about the day of resurrection. See, and a lot of things are possible on the day of resurrection. On the day of judgment, on the day of resurrection, people's deeds will be weighed. And we know that cannot be done in like the real life, right? Obviously, we're talking about something that's completely different to reality, right?
What's your religion?
Islam.
Do you believe Islam is reliable?
Yeah.
Would you trust a religion that has corrupted scripture?
No.
So then why do you trust Islam?
I mean, how is it corrupted?
The Torah, was it corrupted?
Yes. I mean, well, when it was revealed, no, but
Yeah, but
over
over
time.
time it got corrupted.
Yes.
What about the gospel? Did that get corrupted?
Like, what do you mean by gospel?
The gospel, though, the Injil.
The Injil.
Yeah.
Again, at the time when it was revealed, no, but over time, yeah.
All right. So the Torah and the Injil, they got corrupted, and these were these are Islamic scriptures, right?
Yeah.
So within Islam, you have two scriptures that have been corrupted. But you just said that you wouldn't trust a religion that has corrupted scripture. So why do you trust Islam?
What?
You are made of stupid.
These idiots don't realize that that's not what the guest means here, right? When he says, do you trust a religion that has corrupted scriptures? He's talking about Christianity and Judaism. He's not talking about Islam, because Islam rejects those scriptures or parts of those scriptures that is not from God.
You're a fool, with all due respect.
Right? So no, Islam doesn't have any scriptures that has been corrupted. Now, first of all, it's not possible for speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be corrupted. Okay, that's not possible. So already you're wrong. Speech of Allah is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's something he has with him, right? And also on top of it, everything is recorded on the preserved tablet. What we believe about corruption is the people's attempt to record what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. That record got corrupted. That has nothing to do with the actual scripture. And we don't follow those corrupted versions either way. So no, Islam doesn't have corrupted scriptures. Islam only has scriptures of God. That's what we're told to follow, and that's what we follow. First of all, you don't even understand what your guest is saying. And then you're trying to do this kind of like gotcha question. Like, you're just embarrassing yourself at this point. The issue that we have with these corrupt scriptures is that you follow it, not that we follow it. It's a problem for you, not us.
Islam doesn't believe in the Bible today.
Does Islam believe in the Torah?
I mean, it believes in the Torah that was revealed at the time of Moses, but not the Torah we have today.
Really?
Yeah.
When the Quran says that it confirms that which is with them, the Jews and the Christians, what do they have with them in the 7th century in Muhammad's time?
Who's them?
The Jews and the Christians.
What was the verse again?
Chapter 2, verse 41.
Yes, what was it?
It says, believe in what we have sent down, confirming that which is already with you.
How do you know it's referring to the Jews?
Because the context is about the Jews.
I mean, how do you know that?
Because I read it. It talks about their covenant that they had with God and they broke it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but how does it know it's not referring to the previous revelations of the Quran?
Previous revelations of what?
Of the Quran, like that was in the first ayah which was revealed.
Because the Quran says that it was sent down, confirming something that already exists. So the Quran is not confirming itself. It's confirming what was already there, which is revealed before the Torah and the Gospel.
He uses the so-called Islamic dilemma. And I already kind of like refuted this kind of like dumb argument. Like, these idiots don't realize that when they use these passages, like, do they even read these passages? Look, you don't have to look at anything else. Just look at the passage that Allah sent down this revelation confirming what was with them. I want to ask you guys a question, right? If the Quran says that Quran confirms what is with you, can the Quran confirm something that's not in the Quran? Like, can this passage mean that this means that the Quran is confirming something that's not in the Quran? The answer is no, right? Because the Quran can only confirm what is in the Quran. It cannot confirm that's not in something that's not in the Quran.
Pow.
Okay, that can be the only interpretation of this passage, right? So how can you argue the Quran is confirming things that contradict the Quran or that's not mentioned in the Quran? How? Like, how is that even an argument? like you have to think about it for like 5 seconds. 5 seconds, and this argument gets shredded. This is not a good argument. Stop using it. Yeah, if you guys like the video, then don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you want to support my channel, you can become a Patreon or YouTube member. And please do subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. I'm almost near 5k subscribers. So please help me get there, inshallah. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. And inshallah, I'll see you in the next time, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.